This edition of MacVoices is brought to you by Squarespace, the all-in-one platform that makes it fast and easy to create your own professional website or online portfolio. For a free trial and 10% off your first purchase, go to squarespace.com and use the discount code MacVoices. Welcome to the MacJury on MacVoices. This is the Talk of the Mac community, and I'm Chuck Joyner. Folks, we had a great response to our holiday gift shows back in late November and December, and so we're going to make that a little more a regular thing here on the MacJury. Invite some of our friends over to talk about what's new and cool in their lives, and maybe what should be new and cool in your lives too. Kick it around, get some product recommendations, because we all probably still have maybe a little holiday money to spend to try to get us through the cold winter nights. So first, let's find out who we're going to hear from, and then we'll get right to the picks. First up, the guy who played bass on the stage at the Mac's 30th anniversary party, Mr. Chuck Tournous. Chuck, it's great to see you.
Hey, Chuck. Thanks for having me. I'm glad to be back. I am Chuck Tournous. I'm probably best known these days as contributing editor of the Mac Observer. I also still occasionally rant a little bit on randomaccess.com. 2 M's, 2 C's, 2 S's, and I'm working on a new site that sort of covers the convergence of technology and the great outdoors, sort of high adventure and high tech, and that's called trailcamper.com. It's in open beta right now, but you're invited to kick the tires around and see what you think of it.
Very nice, very nice. I didn't know about the new site. That's great, Chuck.
Thank you. Yeah. It's fun. It kind of spawned off of the Macworld, iWorld session that I've been doing for the last couple of years, and we'll be doing again this year, called Tech versus Wild.
And you've revealed your outdoorsy side here on the MacJury a couple times and surprised us. So that's great that a new site is coming up from all that.
Yep, thanks.
Great. Next up, Mr. Peter Cohen, the guy who always has something to say about everything. Peter, it's great to see you.
Thanks, Chuck. I'm Peter Cohen. You can find me on Twitter at Flarg, Flargh, and I spend most of my time these days posting over at imore.com, where I am the managing editor. We cover the range of Apple news, and we're part of a larger network called Mobile Nations that includes sites on Android, Windows Phone, and even BlackBerry. So lots of interesting stuff to look at and read over there.
Great. BlackBerry, Peter?
BlackBerry, yeah, crackberry.com. It's arguably the biggest site, I think, for BlackBerry-related news on the web. It's very, very popular.
Interesting.
And they still get downloads for the podcast when they release new episodes.
Great. Next up, and for his first time wearing the MacJury robes, Mr. Rob Walch. Rob, it's great to see you. I just saw you in Las Vegas not too long ago.
Yeah, NMX and at CES, so it was good to see you. I am with Today in iOS, which used to be Today in iPhone, podcast about the iPhone and all things iOS. Before that, Podcast 411. And I also work for Libsyn, where iMore hosts all their podcasts, all the Mobile Nation podcasts, including their new one. They have a smartwatch podcast.
Smartwatchfans.com. Thank you for reminding me.
Yeah, it's a good one. So check that one out, especially for those of us that have a Pebble. It's a nice new show. Yep. That's my rounds. Again, todayinios.com is where I would tell people to go to find out my most recent stuff.
Great. And just by way of full disclosure, I also host my audio files at Libsyn as well. So thank you for the service. Appreciate it.
I'm sensing a trend here.
I'm going to have to start a new podcast just so I can have it hosted at Libsyn.
There you go.
Yes, please do.
Well, guys, I asked you to gather up some ideas for cool products, things that you found interesting. And, one of the key things I want to make sure that the audience knows here is that it doesn't have to be necessarily brand new and hot off the press. It's anything that you think is worth noting that people should know about. Some are probably going to be obvious, some are not so obvious, but we'll take it as it comes. Rob, since you're the new guy here, how about if we give you first crack at this?
I'll start with one that's not the newest, and I've had it for about a year. It's a sound cylinder, and to me, it's still the best looking Bluetooth speaker that's out there. It comes in a really nice case, a nice round case, but it's a round speaker, and it just looks nice. And you can mount it on the top of your MacBook, or you can put your iPad in it. And so it's just nice, versatile. I don't have it right now because my wife is using it, and I couldn't steal it. And one of my kids was throwing up earlier, so I wasn't about to get in the middle of that. But it's upstairs being used right now.
I'm not familiar with that, Rob. You say you can I've seen the ones you can put on the bottom of your iPad, but you can mount this on the top of your MacBook?
Yeah, it will actually fit. It has a notch in it. It's hard to see here, but it has a notch that you can just put it and mount it right on the top of your MacBook, and it has a notch out for your camera and microphone. So it's nice if you want to have a better speaker system there, or if you have a movie you want to play or music. I use it, and my wife uses it with her MacBook. Excuse me, not MacBook, but her iPad Mini. So. Yeah, so it gets a lot of use. I get a lot of them sent to me to review, and I had this one over about a year now, I guess. And I haven't found one that I think is nicer looking than this one. It really is a pretty Bluetooth speaker, and the sound is really good too.
Very interesting. Very interesting. Have any idea what it goes for price wise?
I think it's not cheap. I think it's like $149. I'll send you a link.
Okay.
Yeah, so I have a link to it.
And I'll have it up on screen for folks so they can see it. And of course, folks, everything we mention here, I'll make sure I have in the show notes, so you don't have to guess and hunt. You can just go right to the appropriate website and pick one up. Good pick. We're off to a Bluetooth speaker start. So I'm going to randomize these a little bit. So Peter, how about if we do you next?
Okay, my first pick is a nifty little product that I've been playing with this week called the Nifty Mini Drive. It is an object that you insert in the SD card slot that is in your MacBook Air or MacBook Pro. And it is essentially just another form of external storage, but it's not an SD card itself. It's actually it is an SD card, but it's got a micro SD card slot inside of it. Right now, micro SD cards are available in capacities up to about 64 gigabytes. So using this, you can sideload up to 64 gigs of storage onto your MacBook Air or your MacBook Pro. And if you've got to rent a MacBook Pro or a MacBook Air, chances are you are probably starving for hard disk space or for storage space, because flash storage on those devices is pretty scant unless you're willing to fork up a lot more money when you first buy the machine to have Apple configure it with a lot of storage capacity. So almost everyone I know is looking for just a little bit more storage, and the Nifty Mini Drive works great, especially for people who aren't already using their SD card slot, because a lot of people don't. A lot of people don't have digital cameras that need them, or find another way of transferring files from their digital cameras, like straight over Wi-Fi using an iFi type of card or what have you. So if you're not using that SD card slot, this makes a really handy way of expanding your storage capabilities dramatically. And you can set it up for whatever you want. You could use it as a time machine backup, for example, and back up critical files that you want to make sure that you've always got the latest backup for. Or you could sideload your iTunes library onto it, so it's not taking up space on your internal flash drive, or whatever. I mean, the possibilities are endless. It's $40. It was developed using a Kickstarter crowdfunding processes, if I remember correctly, and they've revised it a couple of times, I guess, since it first hit the market. But the product that I've been working with comes with a 2 gigabyte micro SD card inside of it already. You can pop it out and replace it with as much capacity as you need. Very neat product, and something that I'm finding a lot of use for.
Now, is that the one that's flush against the side of the MacBook? That's exactly right. It's flush against the side of the MacBook, and they include this nifty. I got to stop saying nifty, but it really kind of fits the bill. This little key hook thing that lets you pull it out when you need to. Okay, that was my one question about that. Was how easy is it to get out?
Yeah, without it, you would have to straighten out a paper clip and then bend it around and yank it out like a fish hook. But if you've got this thing on your key ring or somewhere handy, it's real easy to just hook in and pull right out.
Sweet. Yeah, I talked to these guys at CES, and I was really impressed because it does fit in there flush, and I kind of like that because it's not going to flop out, and it's not going to accidentally get pushed, like the old the inject things that you have, or even the SD card slot as it's intended to use, push in and push out, and have the card catch on anything.
Well, that was my concern, Chuck, before I got it. I was like, wait a minute, am I going to have something dangling out of the side of this thing? Because, I've done that before with SD cards where, I've jostled my MacBook around, whatever, and the card has come out, or it's hit the side of something. I've also broken USB dongles, like 4G adapters and stuff like that. Having them too close. I guess I'm kind of a bull in a china shop, so having it nice and flush against the exterior of the MacBook, in my case, Retina MacBook Pro, is sort of nice assurance that I'm not going to screw it up somehow.
Understood. Yeah. I really like this, and 64 gigs. At some point, you think, okay, well, that's not a big deal, but then on an Air, 64 gigs is an appreciable expansion of the internal storage. So it's a very nice device.
And the thing to keep in mind is that SDXC's upper limit is 2 terabytes. So. Ostensibly, as the density of flash storage increases, we're going to see bigger cards hit the market. So 64 gigs is the limit right now, but I'm sure in the future you'll be able to get something closer to the capacity, the actual capacity of your Retina MacBook Pro. And I look forward to that because I would love to have a local time machine backup going all the time because I'm paranoid.
Yeah, aren't we all? Nice pick, Peter. Nice pick.
Thank you.
Chuck, how about you? You taking us to the great outdoors, or are you going to stay inside?
I'll take you to the great outdoors, but not quite yet. I want to circle back to the Bluetooth speaker thing because I have one to recommend as well. It's from a company called IK Multimedia, and it's called the iLoud, which just came out a couple months ago. And Peter,
I love this thing!
And it's the most aptly named device I've ever seen because this thing is freaking loud. I have a barn out in my backyard where I do some work, and over the holidays I was out there and I just had this thing cranked, and I'm sure I had neighbors and I was scaring deer and neighbors complaining and all that. But it's not just loud, it's still clear. The audio quality on it is wonderful. It connects very, very easily with your iPod or your iPad or your Mac via Bluetooth, whatever you want to use. A lot of life in the battery, a long-lasting battery on it. So it's become my home stereo system. I'll throw Pandora on my iPhone. The sound quality, like I said, is beautiful. I think it rivals a Bose Wave. And I can control it, right from my iPhone. It's not all that big, so reasonable size, very portable. It has a little flip-out stand so that it won't tip over on you if you want to set it down. So it gives it a little more stability. And the other cool thing it does is, IK Multimedia. I've talked about them a couple times, and I talk about how I think they're kind of firing on all cylinders lately with some great products for musicians and audiophiles. They make a bunch of different products like the iRig HD that I have here that allows you to connect your guitar, or in my case the bass, and play it through your iOS device. With the iLoud speaker, you can also connect this to the iLoud, and you can play it through Amplitude or GarageBand or any of the music apps on your iPad. So you have this sort of instant little practice amp that you can take wherever you want. Normally when you use the iRig, you have to use headphones or earbuds, something like that. But now I can subject the whole family to my bad bass playing, and with ease. And it's a lot of fun. It's a great product. Not cheap. It runs about twice what Rob's solution is, so you can get it for about $300. But if you want freaking loud and you want the option to be able to play it with your guitar and use it as a practice amp, it's not a bad deal.
Yeah, it's anything that names itself the iLoud. It better deliver, or it's going to look really stupid. And it does. And it does. It does. Peter, do you have experience with this? It sounds like, if not, you were at least happy to see it named.
Oh, big fan. I've been using one since last fall, I guess. And I'm not a musician, so I toyed around with it a little bit to understand how it works. You know, I've got a bass, I've got a guitar, but I'm not at all a musician. But just the fact that it's Bluetooth and the fact that it's as loud as it is the reason why I like it. And plus, it's cool because when it's on, the dial glows red, which is very kind of sinister looking. It's sort of vaguely HAL 9000-ish, and I like that too. But my favorite use for the iLoud was actually popping it in my backpack and streaming Bluetooth from my phone. I felt like one of those, if you remember, you know, we all look to be of a certain age. I'm sure that we all remember those obnoxious kids in the 80s who would walk down the sidewalk with their boombox hanging off, you know, the side of their head and, you know, blasting music for about a block radius around them. That was me with the iLoud. I was sort of reliving my glory days.
Oh, so you were one of those kids, Peter?
No, I wasn't. But, you know, the iLoud makes it possible to be just as obnoxious, only with much smaller volume and much higher technology.
That's always a good thing.
Yes.
So, Rob, it sounds like you got up your game a little bit if you want the same punch.
Oh, I guess so. Hey, another IK multimedia part, the iRig iMic. So that's another one. Just well, we're on the IK multimedia. They do make some really good products. And it fits really good inside a King Dog Energy Mint can.
I was wondering where you got the case for that.
So it's a King Dog Energy Mint can. So I mean, I don't think there's anything more perfect for a podcaster to put a mic in. So you just put the foam right in there. I carry that. But okay, so next product I want to talk about is I got this one off of Kickstarter, and it just closed, but he'll be selling it. And this is it here. If you see this device, it fits into the bottom of your iPhone. And what you do, you have headphones in here, in this part, and this cable here goes to another iOS device, and you can then record phone calls or Skype on the other iOS device. This
neat.
is basically a miniature mixer or phone hybrid, and it has awesome audio quality. The guy did a great job with this. It's $50. $50. It's called the Recap 2, or actually I think he changed it to Recap C, which stands for combo, but Recap, R-E-C-A-P, and he just finished up the Kickstarter project on this. I think it was like the 14th of January, and he'll be delivering in the April timeframe, and his last Kickstarter project delivered on time. So this guy actually does deliver on Kickstarter stuff. But he sent me this prototype, and it works really well. And if you go to Podcast 411, you can hear an interview I did with him. But this is, if you're a podcaster and want to record on the go, this is as good a quality as any phone hybrid out there on the market for $50 that fits in your pocket.
That's impressive. That's very impressive. So Rob took us into round 2, but I'm going to sneak in my pick for round 1.
Oh.
That's okay, Rob. Yeah.
Sorry.
It's great to see the enthusiasm. I've been since the beginning of the year. I've decided to try an iPad keyboard case. This is, I want to make sure I get this one right because it's very specific. It's the fabric skin keyboard folio from Logitech in like a fire engine orange. I've really been enjoying this, and especially because I don't know if you can see it here, but I'll have an image up after the show. The keyboard is not unlike one of those rubberized covers that you might see for a regular keyboard. There are no keys. It's just, one solid piece of rubberized plastic that you're typing on. It has a pretty good feel. I mean, obviously it's not a keyboard feel, but it has a fine feel for touch typing. what I like most about it is whenever I'm take my iPad out and am doing something with it in the field, it seems like I'm always around food or dirt or something. And because it's one solid sheet of rubberized material, there are no keys for dirt or food or anything to get down in. There's no place to spill water down into the keyboard. It just you can clean it off with a damp cloth and it goes. The other interesting thing about it is when you see no groove or anything here to mount it. It mounts by a magnet that you really can't see. It's inside the case and holds your iPhone or your iPad pretty sturdy. I mean, this is upside down, obviously, but it holds it pretty well. I charged this once when I got it, and now it's about 2 months later, and I haven't had to recharge it again. And I am using my iPad more and more every day. I do find I use it more as a content creation device with the keyboard. I do miss the multi-angles capabilities of my old Zugu case, but there are only a few situations that really applies to. And it does have a fabric skin. There are several of the Logitech keyboards, the Folio keyboards, but this one has like a fabric skin to it, and I've learned to like that. I really thought it would stain within the first week and a half I had it, and I have yet to have a single stain on it, which really impresses me because, I flip it open at the coffee shop, in the restaurant, in the office, wherever, and not sitting it down on a pristine surface, and it always looks great. So if you're interested in trying a keyboard for your iPad, this is not a bad place to start. And I saw these guys, too, at CES and did a little discussion about some of the Logitech products that you can find on MacVoices. But go out and get it. I think you'll be happy with it. Anybody else using Folio cases or keyboard cases with their iPads?
I use a Logitech ultra-thin keyboard cover. So it's not a case. It connects to the iPad by a magnet along the spine, and then you actually detach it from the magnet and put it in a slot in order to use it. And I love that. It's I've hated those the sort of rubberized keyboards that came out in the past. This one, the keys feel great. They're a little tighter than my MacBook Pro or my MacBook Air, but absolutely usable. And like I've had mine. They say it needs charging about every 6 months. So I've had mine longer than that and still haven't had to recharge it. So really, really good product. Logitech is doing a great job with the keyboard cases, I think.
Yeah, I think that you had picked that in one of the holiday shows, and I know I went and looked at that, and it had a great feel, but just the fact that this had a surface to it as opposed to individual keys appealed to me.
Ha! He said Surface. Ha ha.
Do they have that available yet for the iPad Mini Retina?
I can't answer that. I'm not sure. If not, I know it's got to be well on the way, but I don't know.
Yeah, so Clamshell just released or announced theirs, but I need to find a keyboard for my wife's Mini Retina.
I'm a big fan of Moshi, and Moshi at CES just introduced a product for the iPad Air called the Versa keyboard, and they've had a product out for a while called a Versa cover. It's a very lightweight not folio style case, but front and back case. There's like a plastic insert that you put the iPad in, and then a cover that covers it, and naturally it's magnetic or whatever, but the thing was inspired by origami. So there are 3 different positions that you can kind of put the case in, like a reading position that's one angle, and like a movie viewing position that's another steeper angle, and then there's a third angle as well. And the way that you do that is by folding the case in certain ways. It's really kind of cool if you dig origami, and if you think like 3-dimensionally, geometrically, it's cool. But they've adapted the same sort of case to a keyboard cover now, and it's a detachable keyboard. But the idea is that you would use the case the way that you would normally use the Versa cover case, and then you've got this detachable Bluetooth keyboard that you can use as well. Can't wait to get my hands on it. It is a really exciting piece of tech, and Moshi makes great quality stuff.
Yeah, I saw that, and I wondered, not being real good with origami, if I'd be able to figure out how to operate it. But at the same time, with only 3 positions, hopefully I could do it.
Yeah, exactly. I got to be, in the interest of full disclosure, I probably had to spend a half an hour with one before I could actually figure it out. I work in a Mac and iPad retailer on the weekends, so we had a few demo models out, and I was like, I swear to God, I looked at their website and I'm like, I don't understand how this works. Like, and they have animations showing you how it folds up and stuff that's on the case that shows you how it folds up. And I didn't quite get it, but finally it clicked. And once it clicked, I was like, this is damn cool. And it's so lightweight and really nice. So anyway, that's my pitch for Moshi.
I hear
that's not one of my picks, though.
I hear they're working on a Kama Sutra case too, and that's got a whole lot more positions, so that'll be even more confusing for you.
Moving on. This is a family show, and I'm afraid where it's going next.
Hey, I do want to throw out, I did a DIY Atari 400 iPod case to a keyboard. So I put a link in there. So I modified a 400, so it's now a dock for an iPad with a keyboard.
That's very cool. So are you using the actual Atari 400 keyboard?
No, I couldn't get that to work, but I actually, what fits inside the Atari 400 is Apple's Bluetooth keyboard. It fits right in there.
That's good, because the Atari 400 keyboard had the worst keyboard of any home computer of that era.
In the time Sinclair, yes.
You're right, absolutely, because they both had the membrane keyboard. Yep. Oh my God, dreadful things. They belong on microwave ovens and nowhere else.
And I just recommended a membrane keyboard. That's great, guys. Thanks.
No accounting for taste, Chuck.
Yeah, well, what are you going to do? I'm messy, so I need the membrane keyboard.
After 30 years, I think they probably got it a little bit better technology these days.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Definitely. So Rob jumped into the second round. So Peter, how about if we go across and let you do the second round this time too?
Okay, well, I'm going to take it in a completely different direction. I'm going to recommend something techie, but not something that you can hook up to your Mac or your iPad. Is that okay with you, Chuck?
Absolutely.
All right. So my wife, by way of explanation, works for a local coffee roaster, which has given us an opportunity to play with many new kinds of coffee technology that we never used before. We used to be those boring people who just, popped another pod in the Keurig or, made a pot of coffee in the auto drip maker. And those days are far behind us now. Now, I wouldn't say that we're Marco Arment levels of nerdery when it comes to coffee. We're not home roasting yet, but we do really like our coffee. So recently, we acquired a Chemex. That's CHEMX. And if you go to chemexcoffeemaker.com, you can get more information about their products. Now, Chemexes are really lovely coffee makers. And the one that I've got is the 8-cup Classic Series glass coffee maker, which is a very nice hourglass-shaped carafe with a wooden handle right at the pinch point. And basically, you put a filter on the top. You put a cone filter on the top. And Chemex strongly recommends that you use their cone filters because they are very heavy duty, and they also come to a point. They're not flat on the bottom. So all of the coffee grounds get concentrated at the bottom of the funnel. And if you follow their instructions, it produces an incredibly smooth cup of coffee that doesn't have any of the harshness or bitterness or wateriness that you get out of an auto drip maker. It's also a really beautiful presentation. So when you have people over, it's very nice to actually have the Chemex to show off, because it's pretty. It's kind of it's sort of chic nerd tech looking, because it looks like something that you might find in like a chemical lab someplace with tubes and wires sticking out of it, but it's still very elegant and lovely. Now, it's not something that you would put on the burner itself. If you did that, you would shatter the thing in no time at all. So you use an electric kettle or just a tea kettle on your stove to heat up water, which you pour over the grounds, and you just get a lovely cup of coffee. And who doesn't like a lovely cup of coffee? The greatest thing about the Chemex is because it's glass, it's non-porous, so you don't get any sediment inside, you don't get any smell from your coffee, you don't get any lingering aftertaste. So you can also use it for tea, which I've been doing a lot this week because I found a tea blend, a Teavana, that my kids really enjoy as an iced tea. So I've been making that by the pot and putting it in the fridge for them.
It sounds amazing. I'm unfortunately, sorry, Peter, I'm one of those guys that doesn't enjoy a lovely cup of coffee. I'm not a coffee drinker. But
are you a tea drinker?
Iced tea, yeah.
Okay, there you go.
Okay, that's true. Okay.
Fresh brewed iced tea. There's nothing better.
All right, you sold me.
All right,
you sold me. Any other coffee nerds here before we go on?
I like coffee. I wouldn't consider myself a coffee nerd. I'm, my idea of going wild is, buying several different kinds of pods to throw in the Keurig. So.
Okay.
I'm married to a coffee nerd, so I took notes.
Okay. Good. This edition of MacVoices is brought to you by Squarespace, the all-in-one platform that makes it fast and easy to create your own professional website or online portfolio. For some time now, I've been telling you how easy it is to get up and running with Squarespace, how you don't need to code, how all you need to do is make a few choices, select a few options, and bang, your site is online. And all that is 100% true. But what if you want to dig deeper? What if you wanted to find out just how powerful Squarespace can be? To find out all the things Squarespace can do? No, I'm not talking about coding or anything like that. I'm talking about the features that are built into Squarespace that you might not ever want or need. But if you do, they are there, just waiting for you. Squarespace has some amazing documentation under their help section. Documentation called guides. They cover everything from the basics like getting started, connected accounts, and content blocks, but also things like training on search engine optimization, or SEO, integration with services like Google Analytics, Shopify, and Typekit, and settings to add passwords or even inject your own code. But that's only if you really want to. If you're still afraid that you won't know what to do with your Squarespace site, there are even video walkthroughs to help you build that site. Now, I don't think you will need them, but if you do, they are there, just like all the other great features of Squarespace. And that's what makes Squarespace Squarespace. Just when you think you might get ahead of them, they smile and politely point you to what you want. They never mention the fact that it has been there all along, just waiting for you to catch up. You need to find out what Squarespace can do for you. Whether you want to recite your recipes, feature your photos, or sell your stuff, you can do it on Squarespace. Sign up now for a 14-day free trial and then get 10% off your powerful new site with the code MacVoices. That's 10% off your first purchase with the code MacVoices. Do it now and your new site can be online tomorrow. Or today if you hurry. Squarespace. Everything you need to create an exceptional website. Thanks to Squarespace for sponsoring this edition of MacVoices. Okay, Chuck, you're up for round two.
All right. So as promised, I'll bring you to the great outdoors now. This is sort of a two-parter because, when you're out in the woods and roughing it, you want to protect your iPhone because you absolutely need your iPhone camping, and we won't go into why. You have to come see my session for that at Macworld. But when the iPhone 5S came out, I loved the Touch ID, but my big concern was now if I want one of these, really rugged, waterproof cases, am I going to have to turn off the Touch ID or go back to the number, the passcode, because now I use a really long passcode because I barely ever have to use it because of Touch ID. Incipio was the first that I saw to come to market with a rugged case. It looks sort of similar to the got a lot of glare there, to the LifeProof waterproof cases, right? So this is completely waterproof, but yet not all that bulky. Very good protection, but they managed to figure out a way to allow your fingerprint to pass through the waterproof membrane on the case so that you can still use your Touch ID and protect your phone. It's a little bit more finicky than the normal Touch ID, but it does work very well in my experience. You have to sort of get used to putting your finger on the button in a certain way. But it allows me to protect my phone and still be able to use my Touch ID, which I like a lot. So that's part one. That's, again, by Incipio, called the Atlas ID. It runs about $90, but I've seen it as low as $70 on Amazon.com. If you want more protection, say you want to go scuba diving and still take pictures of all the nice wildlife, I'm going to recommend a case by Optrix called the Photo Pro X. Now, again, very rugged case, right? But it's got removable lenses. So sort of like the Olo Pro, you can swap out different kinds of lenses. So this one is just, they call it the Zero. It's just a plain glass, so it uses the same length, not focal length, what am I trying to say? Same lens as the built-in iPhone lens, but it also comes with an assortment of other lenses, including telephoto lens, wide-angle lens, fisheye, and the like, so that you can get some really good photos if you happen to go scuba diving or snorkeling. This one is good down to 33 feet underwater, so it is practical for scuba diving, not just snorkeling. What I like the most about this case, I think, is a lot of these cases you need a coin to pry them open. They close so tight they're difficult to pry apart. Here's how you get your iPhone out of the Optrix Pro case. You flip the latch, open it up, and slide it out, and you can be on the go in a matter of seconds. Really good case. Can't wait to use this in the field. I just got this for my session, so I'm going to be field testing it as soon as the temperature gets above freezing around here. And this one runs for about $150.
Very nice. Very nice. I really am impressed by the way you can open it and close it, because that always seems to be a hassle with so many, and not just waterproof cases, but all cases. They fit well, but you almost commit to them for a while unless you want to wrestle your phone out. So that's a very nice feature.
Yeah, and they're so hard to get apart that they're easy to damage. I actually broke my daughter's LifeProof case trying to open it up so that she could get her phone out, and that's $80 down the drain right there. Makes it simple.
Yeah. We sell the LifeProof cases in the store that I work in. They're very popular because I live in a seaside town, so they're very popular with vacationers who come in who are going to be at the beach or going boating, and they're worried about dropping their phone in the water and ruining it. And the cool thing about LifeProof, though, is that if you get in touch with them, they're really good about replacing cases that get broken. So if you do have a LifeProof case and you've had problems with it getting it open, or if something else has happened to it, get in touch with them. They're usually pretty good about replacing them under warranty.
Yeah, that's good to know.
That's very good to know.
One thing that I think is really kind of interesting about the Optrix is that it's kind of a two-part case. You've got the outer protective shell that latches that you were showing us, Chuck, but you've also got this insert, this sled, basically, that your iPhone 5 goes into, right?
Yep, that's the one that pops out like that.
Right. So it's kind of funny when you first put it in, you kind of have to burp the whole thing to get any air that's in there out. So you can
like
actually.
Tupperware.
Right, exactly, like Tupperware. So you can actually press the screen and have something happen.
Yeah. For that $150, does that include those lenses you showed, or is that additional for those lenses?
The lenses come with it. It comes with 4 lenses. There's the pass-through lens. There's a telephoto lens, and a macro lens. And it also comes with a whole bunch, I think 8 or 10 O-rings that help keep that waterproof seal. So if you tear one, they give you plenty to work with.
Chuck, you cut out there just a little bit. Did you say macro, wide angle? What else?
It's a macro, wide angle, telephoto, and then a pass-through lens, which gives you the same field of view as the regular iPhone lens.
Good, thank you. Okay, wow, this is a diverse bunch here, I must say. It's interesting. For my round 2 pick, this is not exactly new to a lot of people, but I've started playing with a GoPro camera. I was able to get a deal on one and decided to go and try it. And I have to tell you, I've just been so impressed with the quality of the video and the usefulness of this little camera. Now, of course, now I have it not in its housing and all that, but this is how small it is. This is the Hero Plus or Hero 3 Plus, which is a 1080p camera. I decided not to go Hero 3 Plus Silver, excuse me. I didn't go with the black. This is 1080p. The black goes up to 4K, which I really didn't think I need at this point. Now I'm sorry that maybe I didn't, just because I could say I'm editing 4K. But anyway, it's just amazing. The battery life is fair. I wish it were just a little bit longer. But other than that, Peter, like you were saying about the micro SD cards, 64 gigs, I can pack a lot more video on here than the battery can provide. So I think I have to get a backup battery. But if you've been thinking about one of these, go and get one and play with it. Maybe get one from someplace that you can return if you find out it's just not for you. But I think you're going to be surprised at just how many places that it's fun to stick a camera and start capturing video, places that you wouldn't think of before. And with the housing, it's really, really rugged. I haven't, jumped out of an airplane or anything with it, but I also have dropped it a couple times and really haven't had to worry about it because it's in that housing. So the GoPro Hero 3 Plus Silver.
So I'm going to jump in because I decided not to do this as a pick. I brought a couple extra things in case we doubled up, but I have the Garmin version of the GoPro, which is called the Verb Elite. And like the GoPro, it's runs off of a micro SD card. It's got an instant on record switch, which is handy. You don't have to power it up and go through settings or anything. Because it's Garmin, it's got a GPS chip in it, and also has Wi-Fi in it. Using the Wi-Fi, they allow you to connect directly. It creates its own Wi-Fi network, so you can connect it to a companion app on your iPhone, which allows you to use your iPhone as a remote control. So if this is, remote somewhere or, at the bow of your kayak or whatever, and you can't really reach it easily, you can use your iPhone to control the camera. It's also 1080p, and I have not tried the GoPro, so I can't recommend one over the other, but there are different options out there. They have a variety of mounts. So this one is this is what I was playing just before the show started, sticking on my head, but it just snaps right into this, and this is actually a headband mount, so you can put it on your head while you're skiing or whatever. And a variety of different mounts, so you can put it, like I said, on the bow of your kayak, or they have chest mounts. I think that might work a little better because your chest is probably more stable, give you a little steadier picture than on the top of your head. But just, another alternative to this, to the GoPro. This one runs about $400.
Yeah, to be fair, Chuck, I have not. I know that GoPro has some of the Wi-Fi capabilities and the iPhone control capabilities. For what I'm using it for, I haven't experimented with those yet, but I am looking forward to it. So I think now that's some of those things are almost becoming a requirement for these kind of little cameras. And I wanted to comment on the chest thing you were talking about. I saw one of those for the iPhone at CES last year, and a lot of people were kind of making fun of it. This year, all of a sudden, everybody's recognizing the benefits of having a camera strapped to your chest, whether it's an iPhone or a GoPro. It's kind of surprising just how many different places a camera can be attached to the body that do make sense, depending on what it is you're trying to capture.
Well, once you've seen glasses. Yeah, I was going to say, once you've seen somebody with a computer on their glasses, everything else looks cool.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Okay, so Peter, round 3, what do you got?
God, we've met the enemy and they is us. We are creating our own surveillance state, aren't we? Voluntarily. It's incredible. Another thing that they had at CES was like a little pendant blogging device that you wear just on your lapel or on a shirt pocket or whatever, and it takes photos throughout the day. Yeah, it's astonishing to me that we're just we're sort of adding all of these devices to record video or still photos wherever we go, so we don't actually have to remember anything anymore. It's kind of cool.
Well, think about what the FBI and CIA said about Facebook. They spent all that money gathering information up, and people now give it to them freely
for free. Yeah, absolutely. No, it's true. Okay, so my third, on a less dark note, my third pick is from SteelSeries. They're a company that's pretty well regarded for their game peripherals, and they have entered the MFI game controller market with a product called the Stratus that is really cool. The Stratus is designed to work with iOS 7 devices and with games that support MFI controllers. MFI controller support, excuse me, was a new feature of iOS 7 that was introduced when iOS 7 came out, and already we've seen a couple of products like the PowerShell that are designed to work with iPhones and sort of turn iPhones into big game pads. The SteelSeries Stratus is a little bit different in that it is a completely self-contained controller, and it is very nicely designed. There's a D-pad on the left. There are 4 action buttons on the right. There are dual thumbsticks, and there are also flipper buttons on the top. So it works just like a big game controller on a PlayStation or an Xbox would, but it is very compact and small enough easily to stick in your pocket right next to your phone. It even comes with a protective cover, so it's not getting knocked around when you're not using it. And it plays beautifully with the games that I've tested it with. I tried it with Dead Trigger 2 and Sonic 2 and a couple of other games that are MFI controller compliant, and just came away really impressed with the action and with how seamlessly it's supported. Now, it's worth noting that there is a somewhat limited list of devices that it'll work with. Not every device that runs iOS 7 is capable of using this. It's only compatible with the iPhone 5, 5S, 5C, iPod Touch 5th generation, iPad Mini, iPad Air, and iPad 4th generation. So, if your device is running iOS 7 but isn't one of those things, iPhone 4 maybe, or third generation iPad, you're out of luck, unfortunately. But if you've got one of the newer iOS devices, and Lord knows millions of us do, this is a way to really improve your gaming capabilities. And, I just occupationally spend a lot of time playing games on my iOS devices because I'm reviewing them or writing about them for iMore. And I have to admit, I'm not really a big fan of touch-based or gesture-based game control, especially for some of the retro games I like to play. I don't think that it's a very good experience. But even for the games that are thoroughly optimized for a touch interface, if their developers have figured out a way to intelligently incorporate MFI controller support, it's like a completely new system. You're actually playing with a gamepad, and it's just a lot of fun.
Very, very nice. I knew gaming would have to get in here somewhere, and you'd be the guy to bring it, Peter. But you're also a gamer, and that makes it well worth having your opinion on.
Well, thank you.
Okay. Rob, how about if we give you a second shot at the third round?
Something for this one here, it's a little case that you put your iPad in, but what's nice about this, it cleans it. So you slide it in, and it's got microfibers in the inside here, that antimicrobial and whatever, and you slide it in, you slide it out, fingerprints are gone, it cleans it. It's from NuVue, N-U-E-V-U-E, and it's pretty simple. My wife likes it. She likes just to have her iPad. She used to carry around a different pad like this that didn't do any cleaning. So she likes it, and she liked the color of it. So this is one that women like. So if you're looking for something for Valentine's Day and for an iPad mini, this will be it. Very boring, but it does a nice job cleaning it.
I don't agree. I don't think that's boring. I think everybody has a priority for their iPad cases or the way they use their iPad. And
I figure Valentine's Day is coming up, so if you've got a special someone, So, finding things that the women like, that's what I try to search for.
I want to go there so bad, and I'm not going to. Just
keeping it G-rated, eh?
Yeah, absolutely. Chuck, round 3.
Round 3. Okay, so we'll stick with the outdoor theme one more time. I was trying to come up with, I have a whole bunch of stuff here just in case we had duplicates, so it's tough to pick the last one to do. But, we bring our iPhones, we bring our iPads out in the great outdoors. I've yet to see a tree that has an electrical outlet out there. So keeping these devices charged becomes a pretty big deal. There are a few different ways to do this. Probably the oldest, best established is solar power, right? But if you go camping with me, it's almost certain to rain the entire weekend, and you're very unlikely to see the sun. So we have to figure out a different way. Probably the sort of most futuristic way I've seen is a company called PowerTrex. I'm sorry, the company's MyFC. The product is called PowerTrex. This came out at Macworld iWorld last year, just after I did my session, so I wasn't able to include it, but I'll do it this year. And what it is a hydrogen-based power charger. So there's an internal battery in here that uses water. So you just put a couple tablespoons of water inside this thing, and then right in here. Let me show you. So you open up the little reservoir, and you put a couple drops of water in here. And then it comes with these cans of a silicate material that I keep calling them catalysts, but I've been told by very aggressive scientists that it's not actually a catalyst. But this reacts with the water to create electricity that charges the internal battery, and then you can use that to, while it's charging, to plug in your iPhone via a USB port on here. So it has enough power to charge your iPhone about twice with one of these pucks. It charges probably about as fast as using a wall outlet, the 5-watt wall outlet, which is pretty good. And the nice thing about this is you're not dependent on the sun for it. You can charge up the internal battery while you're out in the field hiking or doing other activities with your iPhone. You don't have to leave your iPhone behind. You just come back at camp at night and then plug it into charge, and you're ready to go for the next day. This is about $200. The pucks are about $3 each. Right now, I think they're only available at REI in the United States. So rei.com. They may be in Amazon by now. But really pretty clever way to keep your devices charged while you're out in the outdoors.
Chuck, I would think another place that's good, I remember talking to these guys, is for emergency situations. And for everyone that knows what's going on in the Northeast right now, they know there are a lot of power outages, at least as we record this. And it would be, one of the big things, of course, is to keep your devices charged, especially your iPhone, because it's your link to the outside world. And it would be nice to have one of those in the drawer to pull out, drop maybe a little thumbful of snow in and throw the catalyst, or whatever it's properly called, in, and be able to charge your devices.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a great use case for it. A whole bunch of different uses for it. We lost power for about 7 days last year, and we did use this and a couple other devices that we had laying around to charge the phones, and it works great. It's handy. It's instant power. Like I said before, you don't have to wait for the sun to shine and be dependent on, the fluctuations in how bright the light is. Very solid, very dependable.
So, Chuck, you said that it produces about the same amount of power that a 5-watt adapter would produce. So that's okay for a phone, or even like an iPad Mini, right? But not a full-sized iPad.
Now you can trickle charge a full-size iPad. You're probably not going to get a full charge out of it, but it's really best used for an iPhone or iPod or maybe the Mini.
Chuck, when you do your presentation, Macworld, are you also going to talk about the Power Pot? Are you looking at that too?
I am, in fact, going to talk about the Power Pot. Yeah, that's really the other new way to charge, and it's thermodynamic. I can't remember that. Maybe Rob, the technical term for it escapes me right now.
Well, I forget what they called it, but yeah, I saw it at CES. I happened to slip over to the Venetian and get down in that little bowels of an area, and they were down there, and it looked interesting.
Yeah.
I like their meter. I got their meter, which I use.
Meter's cool, yeah. I have it in my bag of tricks right here, but I won't try to dig it out now. But that uses the differential in temperatures to create electricity. So you can boil water, and because it's hot on one side and the water is cold on the other side, that creates the electricity. So there's a cord that runs from the pot itself. You can use it on any stove you like and plug your iPad or iPhone into that, and it'll charge it up for you too. That's a little bit more an active method of charging, because obviously you need to be there while it's happening. But if you're using it to cook a bowl of soup or whatever, kill two birds with one stone. Very, very efficient.
I knew you'd bring outdoor picks, Chuck, so thank you. Thank
Sure.
you. I'm going to wrap up. I talked about the GoPro camera. And one thing about the GoPro camera that you may not realize, it has an ultra-wide lens setting, which I've been using a lot. And it's not a true fisheye, but it does give you that fisheye effect. And if you don't want the fisheye effect, well, then that's a problem. So if you are a Final Cut 10 user, go to fcpeffects.com and get the fisheye removal plugin. It takes your fisheye video and defishies it. Now, sorry guys, I'm sure that the camera people out there are saying, oh my God, what is he talking about? And I'm sure they're proper technical terms, but at the end of the day, it's simple. It flattens your image out. Yes, it does. That means cropping the edges of your image out. But it also, I think, is a lot better than having that fisheye effect and having that as your only option. And of course, with the GoPro's resolution, you also can, afford to zoom in a little bit, maybe lose some of that and still have it look great. Again, I'm sure that the video people out there know the manual way to do it with things that are built into Final Cut. But I love this. It's like $40, and FCP Effects always has a discount going, so I think I got mine for like $26, bought just as a single plug-in, and it just gives me the sliders. It lets me fix the video real quick and move on instead of having to play with settings that I am not completely familiar with. So it solves a problem. And of course, the GoPro isn't the only one with that. There are plenty of other cameras that do a little bit of fisheye, especially with the wide-angle lens. You can get rid of some of that effect with this tool as well. So, $40 retail with a discount. You can get it a lot cheaper at fcpeffects.com. So that rounds up this pick session, guys. Thank you very much. We'd be hard pressed to have a more diverse group of picks. I must say I'm impressed. And we didn't collaborate on this before. We just all showed up.
Okay. Chuck, thank you so much for having me on.
Yeah,
it was a pleasure meeting you guys.
Great to see you. Peter, Chuck, thank you for being here again. We'll do it again sometime soon, I hope.
Always a pleasure. Thank you
Sounds
very
great,
much
Chuck.
for having me.
Thanks a lot.
Folks, that's this pick show for the MacJury. We will be back again soon with more. In the meantime, please check out the show notes for everything we mentioned, and also to check out the panelists. You can follow them on their favorite social networks, find out what they do, check out their articles, services, shows, whatever. Until the next time, I'm Chuck Joyner. MacVoices is the talk of the Mac community. Thanks for watching. Visit MacVoices.com for links, show notes, to subscribe, to connect with Chuck on Twitter, app.net, Google+, Facebook, and LinkedIn. Subscribe to our weekly newsletter, the MacVoices Dispatch, to stay up to date with all the latest MacVoices news from our front page or at macvoices.com/newsletter. Advertising and sponsorships handled by Backbeat Media at backbeatmedia.com.